Right, hi everybody, and welcome to the Real Acquisitions Antiques podcast. I'm here with Sophie, who is editor for Pre-Loved and also Stone and Sage. Welcome, Sophie. How are
Hello.
you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
So, Sophie, could you just tell the listeners and the viewers a little bit about yourself, please?
Of course. Yeah, no problem. So if I go all the way back to the beginning of how I got into where I am, and that was being not great at school, I'll be very honest with you, really struggling with dyslexia, but was always really good at art. Like, that was my forte, that was my bag. And so I went off, studied art, and then got into teaching, which is amazing. So now I've been lecturing for 18 years within the creative industry. But the issue when you're in education, it can be incredibly a repressive environment. So there needs to be some form of creative outlet when you're in that, and then throw kids into the mix. Life can feel really, really heavy. And I think probably I had like when you have just one of those moments in life where you're thinking, surely there's more, there's more to it. So yeah, five years ago, I kind of was toying with the idea of setting up a business. But I really wanted to do something really creative, something completely different from what I'm doing. So I didn't want to do anything sort of educational based or, that was sort of tick boxing, just allowed me to have that creative freedom. Um, and sustainability and the notion of pre-loved has always been a huge subject within my life. Sort of coming from a household with a single mum, we didn't have new. There was no such thing as new. It just didn't exist. So I've always had this very lovely appreciation for what we call in the vintage industry is truffling. So going along with my nan, at the age of, I don't know, 8 or 9, 10, truffling around for ornaments and bits and bobs. So I kind of kept toying with this idea of, I could bring this joy, the joy that I had with my nan, such an amazing pastime experience. And I genuinely was interested in vintage and what it means and the pastime and the nostalgia and how people could then, re-love something. And my motto has always been pre-loved is the new loved. And I need to trademark that because that's
That's
something that
very
I
good.
really is, isn't it? And it's something that I strive to on a daily basis. This isn't just in business. This is, from things that we do in our household, things that we do as a family, things that I do in business, but also in my teaching as well. There's big thing within sort of academic studies where students have to know about sustainability, and where things come from and why we use them and how they work. So then Stone and Sage was created 2019. I hit the ground running and I thought, what am I doing? I have no idea. I'm not a businesswoman. Let me say very honestly and transparent, I'm definitely not a businesswoman. I just don't think like that at all. And I'm terrible with, kind of networking. I hate it. So I definitely yeah, I was going in blind thinking, I'm just going to give it a go. Life's too short. I need to find a balance. This could be the way forward. And so at first it was, sourcing, selling, and rehoming beautiful. And I mean, not tats. You go into sort of some places and you think, oh my goodness, no, what's going on? Really beautiful bespoke pieces that were different, and I'm always very much pulling away from the grain. I don't like trends in terms of like our house needs to look a certain way. If you like something, buy it. If you want something in your house that offers personality, do it, because you are the only one living in it. That your house is your home.
And you
Um,
incorporate a lot, don't you? You incorporate a lot of
always,
natural, as with the Stone and Sage, the name, and you can really see that with everything you
yeah,
do, sort of on socials and everything. Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
yeah, really, yeah. I mean, we have like a whole world out there. On our doorstep, we have these amazing props that we can use. We have the amazing environments. We're in, especially in Suffolk, it's a beautiful demographics for you to go out and explore, to ramble. So yeah, Ed, you are right. Very much incorporating nature within the business was always just a normal thing for me. Um, then obviously we had the horrific kind of pandemic, but I'll be really honest with you, that was my best year in business, and I didn't know what was going on. I think 1 month I'd earned like £6,000 from selling from my home, and
I
my
think a
husband,
lot of people
yeah,
in the trade of antiques and vintage, because they found the platforms on social media, and because everybody was on these platforms because they were sitting at home and they didn't have anything to do, they were
yeah,
interacting with you and also buying a lot of things to make themselves feel better, basically.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was slightly panicked because I was also teaching at the same time, trying to spin this, full-time business as well. The kids were feral. They literally had a hammock and like, pack up on the side, and I was like, just go for it, kids, do what you want. I'm really busy. Um, but yeah, I think that for me, having that time over that 6 month to 8 month period when Stone and Sage just it elevated, um, I all of a sudden was working on, and I don't really like doing numbers and things on social media, but at the end of the day, it is my shop window, and I have to really, really value that. It's sort of like 3,000 followers to then all of a sudden going up to something silly like 15,000. It was just bonkers. But
And it
what
gives
was
you
selling
a
me up?
huge amount of confidence as well, doesn't it? It really
Yes,
does give you a huge amount of confidence and pushes you on as well.
yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because it's a test. It's your audience saying we actually really like your content. We really like what you're providing us, and we feel engaged with what you're doing. And that for me is the pinnacle of why I do what I do today. Um, And I think previously, when we were discussing earlier, businesses will evolve all the time. And I get so many small businesses messaging me just saying, can I have some advice? How do you do it? What can you give? And, my only advice is if you really want something to happen, you will bend over backwards, you will work the 12-hour shift, you'll be on your laptop at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm sending like newsletters out at like two o'clock in the morning, waking up at 6:30. Things don't come to you for free. You have to work your absolute hiney off to be in a position where I am now, that I can just slightly step back and really, really appreciate that beautiful organic way that the business has evolved. And it has completely done a U-turn. So I'm no longer selling vintage anymore. But what it did, it gave me the avenue to so many other opportunities. And those opportunities have been meeting incredible people, meeting interior designers, meeting artists, meeting creatives, meeting vintage dealers, meeting other editors, publishers. And then I had another light bulb moment, as I did in 2019 with Pre Loved. And I don't know why I do it always on like the 1st of January every year. I have a massive wobble and I think, oh, I'm like there with my tea. I can't do this anymore. And it's like, I need to reinvent. I feel like I have to constantly not reinvent myself. I feel like I
Evolve.
need to give new all the time,
Yeah. Okay.
you
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I love traditional art. It's just in my bones, and I love teaching art, and I love the idea of publications. And I spend a lot of time with students discussing the importance of the creative industry, and most importantly, how you can engage with your audience. And it's through publications, it's through advertisement, it's through graphic design, it's through storytelling, it's through lifestyle, it's through narrative. And I just thought, why on earth am I not creating a publication? Like, this is bonkers. I teach it. It's obvious this is what I need to do. So, like every very normal business, person, has no money to back anything. And I'm thinking, well, I've got 50 quid in the account. What should I do with this? And what I decided to do was I literally just put an Instagram post out. I'm very much about affirmation. You say it out loud, it's going to come to you. And I
Manifesting
literally
your
was like, you're
we've
manifesting.
touched on this with other people as well. You can almost manifest by putting it out there and working hard at it, and then you see it coming back to you. It's sort of putting that energy
Yes,
out into the universe. Yeah, I'm very much with you on that,
100%.
Sophie.
Yeah, definitely. And I just did an Instagram post. I was like, hi, friends. So, yeah, I've decided I'm going to self publish. I'm going to give myself the title of editor because it's only me. And I would love to create a publication based on vintage lifestyle, interiors, and home. Yay.
Yeah, it's out
And the
there. It's done.
response,
It's out there,
it's
isn't
out there,
it?
it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it literally was like, boom. And the
Yeah.
response was insane. I mean, insane. Something that I have been so hard pressed on doing is creating a community. So, a community of like minded, kind, loyal, sustainable, creative people who I am so lucky to call friends. Weirdly, I was talking to my husband about this, and it's my 40th next year, and I was like, "Oh, are you going to do a surprise party?" And he's like, "No," and I was like, "Don't forget, if you do, you have to invite all my Instagram friends." And he was like, "Do I know them all?" I was like, "Probably not, mate. No, there's maybe about 250 of them."
Have to hire out a stadium or something.
So I was just in such a fortunate position that it felt incredibly right. And the other thing that I really want to highlight about this publication was not going to be about me. I don't care about me. I know that sounds really horrible, but I don't want to talk about me, and I don't want to talk about my vintage that I'm selling, and I don't want to talk about my home and my interiors and my new collection, because I'm just not, I'm not like that at all. I really love, I get, I feel so much joy when I'm supporting someone else, and that has probably inherited from education, from teaching, that constant wanting to support other people and help other people, because why wouldn't we? I just think we're in
I think
such a look. Yeah,
that touches on another thing about when you were saying about manifesting um, things and obviously putting things out there and stuff. If you're selfless, um, it comes to you in a different way because you're helping out others. It seems to come to you more, I think, as well. You get more joy from helping others, and it also,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah, and it also links you in with all of your friends. You because you're helping someone, they sort of help you back. You don't want to be helped back. You're not doing it for that, but it all comes together in that sort of way, doesn't it? Which is absolutely amazing.
yeah,
But
yeah, absolutely.
I've noticed that with the community that we're in, it happens a lot, doesn't it? With like charity
Yeah,
events, with
100%.
like sharing. If someone reaches out to you, they want something. I'm always happy to do anything for anybody, and I think a lot of the people in this trade and the world that we're in are like that, which is just great and humbling and just nice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I definitely wouldn't be where I am 100% today without everybody that supported Stone and Pre-Loved. It's built on a foundation of others, and that's just priceless. You can't put a price on that at all. And you're absolutely right. I think especially within the vintage trade and industry, we came to a point, because it has, don't get me wrong, that it has been competitive previous, probably 4 years ago, where we were kind of outsourcing, outdoing, but then this lovely kind of wave of the nation was at breaking point, and actually the only way for anybody to succeed was if we just lifted each other up, and that has remained. That's remained day dot, and that's so beautiful to see, and for it to unfold. And I've made some incredible friends. And then they're the friends that have really reached out with Pre-Loved. And um, so Pre-Loved in itself at the moment it's non-profitable. So it means it makes no money. And, I'm happy with that. So many people say, gosh, you do so much work, and, when are you going to start seeing the rewards? I'm already seeing it. It's not a monetary, I can't put a monetary value on it, because that, first of all, that isn't who I am. I've come really from nothing. As a child, I've never really experienced money, or I've never really experienced sort of like a lavish life and lifestyle. So that's never really at the forefront of what I'm thinking about. And Pre-Loved is so unique. It's so different from all the amazing, lovely home magazines, and that I have been featured in, which has been really lovely. And I've got some amazing photographers and stylists and writers in those magazines who have also helped and supported, but also helped on Pre-Loved as well. Um, but it's community based, so the whole magazine is curated around other people, and it's curated around loads and loads of different things, from seasonal interests, so how you can incorporate your home depending on the seasons, how vintage can be kind of swapped and changed through the different seasons as well, utilizing that nature, um, because it's just a beautiful way to curate your life personally. Just to look at when you're feeling autumnal, why go out and buy new? Just rearrange your home, and it's amazing to have those individuals that can showcase, and we can feel inspired by those people doing that. um, every magazine I do, because I don't want to fall into the normal bracket of most home and interior magazines, is that I conceptualize each of the magazines. So I add a concept to it.
Oh,
This is a really interesting and unique way of working. So this has come from me working in the industry, so working in the creative industry. So every live project that we give the students, we actually concept it, because from day dot, you're then working around something, and it doesn't become like all over the place, and it really keys into what's special and important about that edition. So the latest one that we've had printed and was out in the summer was the essence of nautical, and it's like, how do we go back and forth to this lovely admiration of water, the sea, the river, how we incorporate into the home with vintage items, for our well-being, for our lifestyle. Because naturally in the summer we all gravitate to the water; it's a normal thing. So it was like, it's obvious, surely, isn't it? And I didn't want to see another magazine with a pretty cottage and peonies outside. We've done it, we've seen it, I've seen it for 20 years. Like, let's move on, let's
yeah.
create something really interesting and unique. So the next edition with Pre-Loved, we've got the concept of homestead, or homesteader, or homesteading. Quite a few people haven't heard of that concept, and a few people are doing it. They're in it, they're like homesteaders, um, which is really interesting. Again, it's just giving something where people are really interested in, oh, I've never really heard of this concept before, it's really cool. We also touch upon like Pre-Loved itself, so like Pre-Loved home, Pre-Loved living, Pre-Loved lifestyle, from like fashion to eating. I love highlighting sustainable creatives, so artists, from kind of weavers to ceramists to painters, you name it, anything. I'm all for it. The weirder, the wackier, the better. Um, we also look at like repurposed fashion, because the majority of most of my audience are female, and they are the ages of in between 25 and 45. Um, and I am the walking Pre-Loved. I don't high street shop. Everything is sustainable, everything's secondhand. I go to the tip and I buy furniture. So I want to know what I can wear. If I'm in this
we
lifestyle, I want to
we
know who I
touched on
can
that
see.
once before, didn't we, Sophie? Because I can remember
Yeah.
when I done the charity thing, and you were saying that you don't go like further than say 10 miles or something
Yeah.
to find an item. You're so sustainable. And then I had another person on, a guest, who literally goes all around the whole of Europe, basically, doesn't he? And
Oh gosh, it was so funny.
it was quite a contrast, wasn't it? Because there's someone that is literally going hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles to source all of these items, and there's you in a
Yeah.
5 mile radius. But exactly, and it's
Oh, it was so. Yeah. It was so funny. You know, I'm like, I only do 5 miles, 10 miles at the most. Yeah, but that's true. You know, I do. Because I worry about carbon footprint. You know, like everything is so important to us. It's also, you know, in our parenting as well. We rarely buy the kids new things. And I just want people to know that that is a normal way of living. Like that is a
well,
normal way, and there are
it's
so
like the
many people
homestead,
doing it.
with the homestead thing as well. That sort of touches on that, because with the homestead, you're growing your own fruit and veg, and you've got land, or you could have animals on that land as well, haven't you? You know, there's a homestead where
Yeah,
you're gaining from the environment as well. So you're not going to have to go out and buy all this stuff that's wrapped up and all this stuff, which is, you know, it's so much more sustainable to have grow stuff at home, basically, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And if you can't grow things at home, because we all have crazy, busy households and lives,
Hmm.
you know, think about the alternatives. There's always, like in our little village, there's always little old Doris down the road who's trying to sell some rhubarb and some green beans for a couple of quid.
Yeah,
There's always an alternative. Like there are no excuses,
yeah.
personally, I feel. Um, you know, when we budget as well, like we don't talk about money in our way that we live. We just, it's just a taboo. People don't talk about it, and I actually think we should talk about it. I'm constantly in my overdraft. You know, and I'm always like, you know, food to mouth. That's just how we live. And so this magazine, I really wanted it to be about equality, diversity, the way that normal people are living, because we're not all living in stately homes and, you know, like flancing around and not working. You know, that's just not real. It's not a realistic way of living. So I'm just very, very keen on creating this beautiful publication that is just filled with inspirational stories, journeys, survival, vulnerability, creativity, you know, and small businesses like pushing their way through mainstream and like trying to survive and leading the way because they want to be different and alternative, and they just haven't got the opportunity to be able to showcase that out. And not only that, it's, I always say that Pre-Loved is your platform. So I have so many people email in or message me and say, Soph, would you mind if I, you know, is there something that I could do for Pre-Loved? Answer will always be yes. I'm never going to turn anybody away, ever, because I remember, I know that feeling, what it's like when you're first starting out. It's horrible feeling ghosted. It's horrible when people just ignore you. It's horrible when people want to take the mick and, you know, expect like tenfold back. um, so it's really important that people get that opportunity to feel, one, really supported, and two, that they are being showcased, because what an amazing achievement is that, to be in a publication as a small business. um, so
It can
yeah, it's
really
really
build
important.
confidence, can't it, as well?
Yeah,
And I think yourself and I have both felt that confidence of being liked and being pushed into a place where you didn't expect to be, basically, as in a
yeah,
publication, on TV, this sort of thing. And it's just such a confidence boost. And exactly, I'm always the same. If anybody ever wants to reach out and do anything, I would always try and help them out as much as possible, because it's only just, it's going to, first of all, just really make them and push them up, but also it's going to help you as well, even though you don't know it, because it's like karma, isn't it? Basically, you know, sort
yeah,
of whatever you put
yeah,
out,
yeah,
you sort of get back. I think, which is great. So
yeah, yeah.
pre pre loved, where can people find it? Where can they find you? And basically talk us all through that, please. So
Yeah, yeah, of course. So Pre-loved can be found on my website. So that's www.stoneandsage.co.uk, or you can hop on to the Instagram, which is at Pre-loved Magazine, and then, you know, like in the link in the bio, you can go there. Or you can go on like Stone and Sage Curated. That's on my Instagram as well. There isn't a digital format for it. So I think we were talking earlier about sort of the importance of well-being and what we can do and how we can help ourselves on a day-to-day basis. Lots of people say, can I get it digitally? The answer is no. I'm very like, no, sorry.
No.
I just don't I just don't want to be digital. And I know that sounds crazy because it's like, oh my God, you know, you're missing out on money and things. I created this magazine purely for well-being reasons and aspects. I want someone who has had a really hard week or a crappy day, or the kids are crazy, or do you know what, you're just feeling out of sorts, to sit down, grab a cup of tea, pick up, like physically pick up a magazine, pre-loved obviously, and just go through it and like connect with the paper, feel completely like inwards, and just read these incredible stories. It is heavily editorial, so it isn't page of image ad image. There are, you know, like people have taken the time out to write their story, and for us to learn from them, or there's projects and there's things going on in there. And I have had so many people message me, like hundreds of people, just saying, I can't tell you how many times I've picked up the magazine, I've read like 1 to 4 pages, I've put it back down, I took 15 minutes out of my day, and then 3 days later, I've picked it up again and I've moved on to the next kind of subsection or the next thing. I feel so good for doing it. I went and sat out in the garden, the sun was on my face. You know, I just can't stress enough how important that is for people, just to have that breathing space, and whether it's reading and it not being on a tablet and it not being on your phone.
Gets you away from that tech, doesn't it? You know, it does
Yeah.
generally get you away from whatever it is, the tech, the Wi-Fi, all this sort of stuff. Just sit down, put your phone away, put your laptop away, get that magazine, pre-loved obviously, in your hands, and give it, you know, a read. And as well, like what you were saying, if you can, a lot of magazines, you read them just straight off, it's done, you know, because yours is heavily editorial as well, so it's got so much content in there, you can keep picking it up, which is a real thing that just doesn't happen now, you know, so which is really great also.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, really good. I you know, we never really say this about ourselves, but I am really proud. I am really proud of we don't ever praise ourselves, do we? But do you know what? I think with this, with pre-loved, I'm more proud of just what it represents more than anything. And also, I being really dyslexic, like crazy dyslexic, and I've managed to cope with it during like teaching and stuff. It was a real big task for me because I miss the small details, and I've really learned how to work to my advantage with it. So like, I have such a love for writing now, and it is all due and thanks to having pre-loved.
Well, I mean, you're sort of, especially with it being heavy editorial and you're dyslexic, obviously you're going to find it hard. But then you've achieved the goal, haven't you? Basically, so
Yeah.
that. But you also, obviously, the imagery in it and the photography is also of top standard. And you've started to get into photography a lot, haven't you? Is that right?
Yeah. So this is where sort of the selling vintage and it just beautifully just sort of dropping off the face of the earth and then moving on to something else. And you know, I've had not many people, well, I've had no one message me and say selling vintage anymore. So I don't know whether that's a good thing. Oh, I don't know. But yeah, I loved, so when I would source, one of the most important things that I loved about that side of the business was curating, styling, visualizing, telling a story, and photographing. I'm really lucky that I have studied art and photography, and I've done my master's degree, and I have always had a very kind of, I suppose, a natural love and organic way of working with photography. And it was only really that I thought, you know, I have to do a lot of the publication myself, and a lot of it means I can't pay for photographers. I don't have the money there. So it was like I really need to believe in myself and just go out there and start photographing. The more I started doing it, which is really lovely, the more people are like, oh my God, you know, Sophie, your work is beautiful. It's so different. It's the aesthetic, the way that you work, the way that you construct your imagery and your photographs. But I tell you what, the tool and the key is that I'm a sustainable photographer. So lots of clients message me, and it's really funny. It's quite sweet. They say to me, gosh, you know, let me know if you need a hand off the train with all your gear. So I don't have any gear. I own nothing. I own nothing but vintage cameras. So I only use film vintage cameras or a very, very old 25-year-old digital camera. I have no lights. I have no testers. I have no Macs. I have no tripods. I have diddly squat. So to be able to offer a really unique way of drawing, you know, painting and sort of narrating work for people, so whether it's through branding, whether it's through interiors, whether it's through editorial or article work, is, yeah, it's been really lovely.
It's great that as well that you're sustainable even in the photography. So how do you get these images onto the into the magazine? You have to, obviously, all the film is. It must be a bit of a struggle, mustn't it?
Yeah, so with all the pre-loved, I will use my trusty digital, so it's like 25 years old. But what's really beautiful about it is that the lens that I use naturally creates a beautiful vintage kind of feel and aesthetic. So I rarely have to edit anything. I might have to up the bright, you know, I might have to sort of change the brightness, or I might have to take the brightness down, whether it's been bleached too much. I have to be really aware of photography glare, because I'm not using any hoods. I'm not using like a blackout blind. I only use natural light. So I've just done the most incredible fashion shoot, and I was absolutely, I don't know whether I can swear on here, but I was shitting a brick because I was like, oh my God, this is high end fashion. I'm using a really old camera. Is this going to work? But you know, there is a beautiful wave coming through within the photography industry where a lot of brands, especially in fashion, are not wanting polished, refined, formal photography anymore. They're wanting that real cool street, grimy, slightly, um, you know, almost slightly kind of fractured a little bit, and it looks a bit kind of like aged and a bit 80s, and that's hugely in. So at the moment, I'm loving it. I've got so many people contacting me just saying, you know, really love what you're doing. It's so different. um and
So
I
that's it. So
genuinely love
someone
photography.
who is literally wants to get into photography, they can go, as you say, truffling. They can find a digital camera, just get out there and
Uh-huh.
give it, yeah, just give it a go, basically.
Yeah,
You know, and then
yeah, absolutely.
the more you do, the better you'll get as well, I suppose, isn't it? So you don't have to have a lot of money to start off, and just give it a crack. Have you got any tips for people with creating the atmosphere that you create? Is there any tips that you could give for up and coming photographers or even dealers that want to photograph their items?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's really daunting. It's really nerve-wracking having a camera. just even like, what am I doing with it? What works, what doesn't work? I don't even know what this means. If you're going to go and buy a camera and you're going to get it off eBay, or you're going to go and find something in a charity shop, the best way for you to learn is to self-teach yourself, like self-taught. Get the confidence up, learn what your camera can do, learn from your mistakes, 100%. But I would say tips are, go out. I get so many people saying, oh, I don't know what content to use, and I don't know what, and I'm thinking, well, when was the last time you hopped on a train, you went to London? When was the last time you drove to Cambridge and you like just decided to photograph some really cool people? When was the last time you just went out into your garden, you took your camera and you photographed the apple tree, or you took a basket and you snipped some flowers and you photographed them? So there's a term that we use, and it's called documentary photography. And that's basically what I'm saying to you. If you want to learn these skills, is the documentation of your everyday, because you'll soon pick up the angles that you like to work with. You'll soon pick up what light works best for you in the day. So I actually really struggle with early morning light. I find it really blue, really harsh, really cold, because the aesthetic that the lens and the camera that I use is very warm. They just clash with each other. So it isn't just about going out and taking photos. It really is about understanding the fundamental principles of what your camera does in certain daylights and certain periods of in the time. If you're wanting to photograph homes and like collections and vintage, always cluster always cluster things together. If you're wanting to photograph like a vase, don't stick it next to something that's like 3 times bigger than it, because it doesn't give a true comparison of size proportion, especially if you're then wanting to sell it and then put it online. So just go and snip some flowers in the garden, maybe put it up against a wall, maybe have it kind of like nestled to a window, put it next to a basket of things, and then photograph it. It's so important that you give something a bit of context. So if you're going to photograph a plate it with some really lovely kind of like pears on the side, or some knife and forks next to it. So it gives it the illusion of we're doing something with it. So we're going to take it out the cupboard and we're going to eat the pears and the cheese. Already you're giving it life, and you're visualizing what you're going to do. I see so many, really beautiful businesses, and their product photography is just, they could be doing so much more with it, and connecting with their audience, and it just being a bit more dreamy, and it not so product led. But there's a big styling tip. So whenever you're styling something, always style in 3s or 6s. So never 2s or 5s.
Right, okay.
Because it's really important that you do this. So because things become out of balance and off proportion, there are certain words that you need to remember in photography and styling, and that's juxtaposition. So when you juxta something, it's always really lovely to have contrasting settings. So something like industrial against something wooden, that's a juxtaposition of 2 materials. Have that, go with that, because it gets people talking. If you're doing a flat lay, really consider your color accents. I would say never go over 5 color accents, because it becomes too much. There's a big term that you would say, it's when you're over egging something. You can't, you need to be able to kind of just appreciate simplicity sometimes, and not like throw every rainbow color at something. Really think about just your shades of accents. If you want to work with complementary colors, work with those colors. If you want to work with contrasting colors, but keep them very separate. I think that's really, really crucial. If you go on my Instagram, so it's Stone and Sage Curated, you'll get a feel for the way that I work and the way that I have paired colours together, and then you can understand the marrying relationship of those. And that's the other thing. So I haven't really talked about this. Your Instagram, so if you're really Instagram heavy, with photography and styling, that is period. It's changed. Over the last 4 years, Instagram is not what it is. It is purely your shop window. And as horrible and as clinical and as disgusting as that sounds, you have to be so mindful that everything you're showing, you're showcasing is the best of the best. It's the stuff that you want people to see. It's the stuff that you want your customers to be like, I want that. What? Where has that gone? Who's got, I want that item. You want your client, if a client contacts me, I send them directly to my portfolio. My portfolio is my Instagram.
Yeah.
And I've now highlighted all of my stories. So I've had fashion designers contacted me, product design, product companies. I just literally send them across the stories where I've archived everything, because that is my portfolio.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's an important shop window as well. I was speaking to
Yeah.
someone the other day actually, and they had an item for sale on Instagram. This was a quite high end antique dealer, but then an even higher end antique dealer wanted their item, and he'd never sold to him before. I'm not going to mention any names or anything, but he never sold to him before. And then he said, I'll have it for the price. They negotiate the price. And then he said, right, can you take it down off Instagram, off your website, off everything like this? Yeah. And can you arrange delivery? And he was like, whoa, like there's a lot of, you do this, you do that. First of all, my it's not coming off my Instagram because that's my portfolio of all of my objects.
Yeah.
And I think from what he said, he lost the business, but then he was going to lose an important piece that I think loads of people wanted anyway from his portfolio. So it proves that Instagram seriously is a portfolio for your items or how you create things, pictures, and it's a great tool, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful tool. I know I hear, lots of people say, oh, bloody Instagram and, but there's always pros and cons with anything we use, whether it's a laptop or whether it's your phone or Instagram or whether it's your car. There's always going to be something. You've just got to have patience, like patience like no other. And you just got to find your way, feed your way through things, find your way.
Like Prince said, I think he said, use the computer, don't let the computer use you. Something like that.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Instagram. Use Instagram, don't let it use you. It's as simple as that. Use anything, AI, whatever all this stuff is. Use it, don't let it use you. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right. We've been going for a long time, Sophie, and you've gave us so much. It's brilliant. I've really appreciated it. No, it's been absolutely great. Do you know what I really want a tip in though? And you might. I thought this is a real hard one actually. It's in photography. How do you photograph a mirror?
Haha. Okay, so first of all, whenever I've done mirror photography, I would actually take it outside because I would rather have a reflection of the sky or a tree or something natural than it be, because I know what we're like. Our studios are not very tidy. I've been there.
I'm not going to turn my camera around. I'm definitely not going to do that.
It will be full of stuff everywhere. And always just on an angle. So the best place that I find is if you've got a window here. So here, sorry, you've got a window here. Pop it here next to it. So you're going to have natural light fall across it. And then you're just going to turn it. You're going to turn with the camera or the phone. You're going to photograph it that way. So you're not in it, but you've got the image and then you've got the reflection.
Nice. Yes, well, I always try and a lot of people try and put an object somewhere and get the image of the object in it. But I think you're right, and I've never done that really. But obviously, that organic outside image is so much nicer than anything inside, isn't it?
Yeah. No. I always quite liked. Yeah, you could always get someone to hold it as well, just like this, and you're photographing it. There are lots of mirrors are hard. They're really hard. Never feel down or disappointed if you can't get the mirror image.
No, it's the same with a glazed picture as well. They're tricky, aren't they? Yeah, the most trickiest things: a glazed picture and a mirror, basically. I've even stopped from buying glazed pictures sometimes because I think, oh, I'm never going to be able to, photograph it. or something,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, I used to take out all the panes of glass when I would buy, beautiful kind of prints and lithographs, because I just couldn't cope with the glare. So I was like taking all these bits of glass out, trying to photograph them.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But
I think we've all done that, I think, to be honest with you. So, right, Sophie, before you go, is there any accounts, websites, or people who you know that people should go and have a look at? Like, friends that you have,
my
basically.
God, I've got so many.
Right.
So many.
Just
Oh
give
my
us a...
goodness, that's such a hard question.
I'm sorry. I didn't even prepare you for this one, did I, either?
You didn't know. Do you know what? I'm gonna just get my Mac. I'm gonna do a little bit of self-advertising here.
Right, okay,
I would say,
yeah,
go and get this, because I've only got 30 copies left, and everybody that's in this at the moment is just worth every single penny of looking, exploring, and having a look at. And the paper is beautiful, so I only use recycled paper. I don't use any crappy glossy stuff.
So for anybody that's not watching and just listening, Sophie is basically holding up the Pre-Loved magazine, and just go, and it was the last edition, a nautical theme. It's got a boat on the front, beautifully.
Yeah, boat on the front.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Just get out there, go to her website, order that, have a look at all the people in there, and you'll get some great ideas basically as well, won't you?
Yeah, you'll be introduced to so many. I think I'm tallying up to 350. This is why I couldn't give you an answer, because I have personally exchanged words and worked with 350 people to date on Pre-Loved. It's huge.
Brilliant. Right, well,
but yeah.
Right, so everybody go out there and buy Pre-Loved, and thanks Sophie for joining me on the Real Acquisitions Antiques podcast, and we'll see everybody next time. Yeah, cheers Sophie.